Hello everyone, today we're taking a look at the Beta FPV Meteor75 HD. This is the WalkSnail version. They also have an HD0 version. You can also get this with Express LRS, FR Sky, and TBS Crossfire if that is your receiver protocol of choice. And I think there's three things that I learned through this process that are probably pretty important to see before you were to make a buying decision on something like this. And I should note that this is also my first WalkSnail experience. I did pre-order the goggles, but I didn't kind of rush to use them and make a video or anything like that. I just kind of got them and, oh, okay, great. I'm all set for when something like this comes up. Let's dive in and see what those three things are. This comes with a new design Beta FPV motor. It's 1102, 18,000 kV. The size and kV are familiar, but the design seems a little bit different, doesn't it? And of course on those motors is 40mm tri-bladed props because this is a 75mm whoop. And the all-in-one flight controller down in here is the F4. It's 1S with a 5-amp ESC, and it has serial ELRS, meaning SPI, so upgradable only by the Betaflight flashing. And it's also noted that the gyro is the BMI 270. That's important to some of you. And of course, the board and the camera down here, it is the WalkSnail 1S edition, which they're calling the Avatar Mini Vtx, which is capable up to 350 milliwatts. But there are ways around that. Comes with a left-hand polarized circular antenna, which is zip tied right down here, and I thought that was a pretty tasty move because that will certainly keep our antenna from coming loose off of this valuable board. This is our connector to extract the data from the 8MB onboard SD storage, so you can record crystal clear video, highest quality, right onto the board. Of course, we get our DVR through the camera. And speaking of the camera, you notice what I'm seeing in that canopy design? Yay, Beta FPV made a canopy with adjustable camera design. See that screw right there? Turn that one. Turn that one. Raise and lower your camera angle to your heart's desire. It also comes with the BT20 connector that Beta FPV created, which is a good thing for our throughput and longevity and power and performance and flight time. The battery tray is pretty specific to the Beta FPV battery. I found that my other batteries just don't fit in there. They've made this tray a little bit more narrow. The canopies come with these different little pieces we can attach to them through the holes in the top of the canopy, which is kind of fun and looks good when it's on your shelf. But it's a whoop, so I don't fly it with them. I should have mentioned, these little bits just add weight. They look good, they still just add weight. So of course, you only get one canopy, and you get those little accessory pieces to dress up the canopy, an extra set of props, and a screwdriver, and also this charger is included in the kit. Of course, this support card is also included in the kit at no extra charge. And the last thing inside this box is this little cable. Don't lose this guy. It's the only way to get the DVR or the recorded video off the board is with this little cable right here. And the first thing you should know is it's not fast getting that off of there. It weighs 39.5 grams. And for reference, the Mob Lite 7 HD0 different HD system weighs just about 29 grams. So keep that weight in mind when you're watching it fly. Motor post to motor post, I'm getting almost 77 millimeters. So it's pretty close to 75. So we're gonna start this with the inside flight. Inside flying with whoops is my favorite, but I'm a realist. I know that not everybody flies these things inside, or at least they don't fly them inside all the time. So we are going to have an outside flight. All my flights came on Beta FPV 450 batteries, and unfortunately I had to kind of pick through the batteries that would seemingly give me the best flight time, meaning they were in the best shape, because not all my batteries would equal that. So the first thing is I did not crank up my camera angle and try to fly it as fast as humanly possible. What I was trying to do is fly it as fast as I was comfortable with without doing a whole bunch of excessive crashing. And in this particular case, due to the extra weight, and it being a whoop, we're not going to be flying this as fast as you might have seen in my past videos with HD0. But it's still capable. I had a few people ask me questions and said, you know, is this just a sin whoop? If it's just a sin whoop, why would anybody want it? Well, I think what you're looking at here is you've made the investment in WalkSnail or in the Avatar Cadix digital FPV system, or you're thinking about doing it and you're wanting a whoop along with any sort of, you know, traditional outside quad that you might have, a 3, 4, 5 inch quad. So you're wanting to go into wintertime and you're wanting to look at WalkSnail. This is your option. I thought I had seen the Mob Lite 7 with the WalkSnail version, but I can't find it on the Happy Model website. I thought I saw it on the Facebook, saying that like an old man. but I can't find it again, so maybe it was a teaser, maybe it's to come. But at this point in time, I can't validate that. But, you know, if you guys want to point me to the posting that Happy Model or whoever had about a WalkSnail version of that one coming. Otherwise, for those people who are looking at WalkSnail or own WalkSnail and you're wanting a Whoop, this is the one to have unless you're going to build one yourself. You know, I fly it like I like to fly. I do like to fly aggressively in the house. I have that sort of pod racing sort of style, which is actually more speeder racing. I always have to correct myself with that because I say pod racing, but it's technically not pod racing that I'm referencing. It's the speeder racing from the original Star Wars. That was one of the feelings that I try to always get back. And so I had some pretty short flights on those Beta FPV batteries that were a little bit older, a little bit more abused. So my flights, I was relegated to only having 8 usable batteries, so that actually limited the number of flights that I could do in total over the course of the week and a half that I was flying this. Although I probably still got 35 to 45 flights on it, I had charged up a bunch of G&B batteries that had Meteor75 connectors on them, and I had made a little pigtail for BT20, but those batteries just won't fit in. And I can show you that back at the desk, just kind of a verification. You might be able to jam them in, but I'm not certain that's what you want to do. Okay, our flight has ended, and because we don't have the OSD, yes, we have the SRT file from the DVR, but we don't have the OSD to tell us, that flight was 2 minutes and 50 seconds, and to my surprise, the outside flight is going to be longer. Okay, we're now outside, and this flight is going to be 3 minutes and 9 seconds. So a nice smooth punch out there, nice recovery. It's 1S, it's 40 grams. On that recovery, you're at 99% throttle, maybe even 100% throttle. So that's something to keep in mind. Yes, you don't have a lot of overhead for your thrust. And because of that, when it comes to making dramatic, quick corrections, maybe crash avoidance sort of corrections, you're going to have less thrust available to help you with that. But I thought, considering its weight, considering it is 1S, it tracks really nice. It has a pretty good tune, but there's something interesting that I'll show you after this flight that makes me kind of worried about that tune a little bit as well. And that's the second point that I think people who are looking at this probably want to be aware before you purchase, or maybe even if you're building, maybe we can learn something from Beta FPV's assembly of parts in their tune here as well. But yeah, in a nice calm day like I've got here, image quality is really good, flies pretty nice. I'm also going to circle the house here in a minute to kind of just show you, because it's my first time using WalkSnail. Oh yeah, and I also had crash.
That's a bad one.
This is interesting because I kind of have some difficulties getting out of this little spot I find myself in, and you can hear me churning up the leaves and stuff, kind of testing the resiliency of the ESCs. But of course, all crashes are different. It seems as though our components from one to the next can also be somewhat different. If you did this, there's potential that that board could burn up. It's only a 5 amp ESC, but I wanted to give that a go. I got a little bit tangled up in weeds, or excuse me, leaves. They're not the most stiff object to be tangled up in our props, but I was able to get myself out of there. But I circled the house to just kind of show you the video reception, especially for those of you that watch the videos on the channel. And I've done some VTX testing, not just recently, but over the years. You might want to see, you know, how does it do when it circles the house. So I do this in this flight footage as well. Make our pass back through those barstool stairs. Look at all those leaves. Yes, me and my son are going to probably have to get busy and pick up all those leaves. We also need to get our sprinkler system flushed out, and the pool probably needs to be closed out fairly soon, although I know my wife wants to have one last near winter time hurrah in the pool, but I don't know if it's going to happen or not. The kids' schedule is a little bit difficult to keep up with sometimes. But I just want to reiterate, you know, it's not going to win you whoop races. So if you go to race this against other 75mm whoops that are analog and lighter, you're gonna lose. But can you have a good time? Does it fly nice for what it is, 40 grams in 1S? Yeah. And again, if you're making the investment in WalkSnail, or you've looking at making that sort of purchase to get away from DJI but still get HD and this sort of image quality, then this is the one to have if you're looking for a bind and fly. Otherwise, you're looking to build. And there are some things that I think I learned about this quad that we could talk about in the back at the desk. It's not one of my top 3 things, but it is there. And of course, my radio was hollering at me too.
Yes, I hear you. I hear you. I really do.
Okay, in this flight, I just want to show you this punch out and the wobbles. So obviously I've already shown you a perfectly smooth punch out that didn't wash out at the bottom. That move you saw at the bottom where it rolled, or excuse me, it yawed around to one side and it pitched up. It does that on itself. We oftentimes call that yaw washout. That didn't happen on all batteries, and this doesn't happen on all batteries. So what I found and what I'm doing here, and unfortunately I can't show you the details because the Betaflight OSD records to that SRT file on the goggles, and the SRT file doesn't record fast enough data to show you all the different voltages that we see. So what I'm doing is I'm kind of hitting the throttle, trying to see my throttle position as well as my battery voltage. I'm trying to figure out what the trigger is. Well, what I think I found was if your battery is at 3.5 volts and you're trying to go above, say, 75, maybe even 80% on the throttle, that you'll get this wobble on a low quality battery. So this is a tell of not a quad problem, in my opinion, but a battery problem. Because obviously I showed you that flight previously, perfectly good dive, recovery, we didn't see all these jitters and wobbles, and they're happening on minor movements. The battery sag, because of the battery quality and condition, just can't hold up to the flight. And that is another thing I think you need to be aware of, because if your batteries are a little bit worn and you bought this, you would have a really bad experience if you didn't know that this was my experience as well, and it's time to replace those batteries. They might be usable in other quads, but not in this one. So the last thing I think you need to know is how slow it pulls the data off the onboard SD card. So this gets you the best recording quality, and you can see I've got everything connected up the desk. I've got a little fan blowing on it to keep it cool, to make sure it's not overheating. And then I flash up to the computer, and it's downloading at about 11.5 megabits per second, which is pretty dadgum slow. On a typical SD card, you can get triple that. Well, I think triple that. You get substantially more. It would take a pretty good amount of time to copy the data off of this. You can see down at the bottom it says 7 minutes, and it's got less than 8 megabits of data. Okay, let's talk about the frame a little bit, because that surprised me when I got my hands on it. It's fairly flexible, and it feels like a new material or a new density of material. So I think it's a good thing it's got 1.5 millimeter shafts, so your shafts should be fine unless you crash, into an immovable object as fast as you can go. But I'm hitting there a little bit. It's going to be hard to tell how durable those shafts actually are. But you're going to get beat up props, indoor, outdoor flying, when you're hitting stuff here. Just this is so flexible, and you can kind of see. I know it's hard to tell because you can't feel how hard I'm pushing on things, but this is more flexible than many other frames in this same category. So that's something that you should expect. Now, I've had a fair bit of criticisms here already, but some things that I think they did really nicely. One, this canopy is designed really nice. I think they could lose some weight from it. Obviously, we already talked about the little accessories that go in these little holes that make it look neat or interesting or nice or cool. Those won't help you fly, but if you like those things, fly with them, have fun. I always support anybody who's having fun. Doesn't matter what weight they're coming in or what their build is. But if you want to get the most flight time and you want to have the most performance, take those things off. And if you aren't averse to it, I would possibly even carve out some of this canopy. Shave a little bit more weight off. That might help us get a little bit more flight fun. So normally we don't see this sort of antenna on Whoops, so that is obviously adding a touch bit more weight, maybe a half gram, maybe a whole gram, it's hard to say. But this zip tie, that's a really smart idea, because we know that antennas are important to keep those on our VTX, especially our digital VTX, and if we pull on this stuff enough, it'll end up popping off of here, and then it maybe lays in the field after you've had a crash and the antenna's gone, and then the board gets damaged. Maybe it works, maybe it doesn't work. But this zip tie, a minor little thing, if it should break and you have one of these, be prepared to replace it, because I think that is pretty important. Something else that they did is fairly interesting. So they put the wiring underneath. That acts a little bit as some insulation between the boards making contact. But when they designed this canopy, obviously they designed it for this board or this configuration size shape of board. And they have the board actually suspended from the canopy rather than suspended from the frame post, which is more traditional. And I think that's a pretty good design. It does mean that when you disassemble this, if you take these screws out of the canopy, then you have the VTX actually in the top. So to get access to the VTX, you've got to take out more screws. In this particular case, to take out those screws, it's going to be 3 here, and then the 3, well, it's 3 2 in each spot because we don't have any screws in the front. That probably took a little bit more engineering as well as far as their canopy design, because oftentimes when we see a 3-position canopy, we get jello in the camera, and we didn't see that in this. At least I didn't, but we have seen it in other canopy designs over the years. Newbie Drone is one of the few companies that is able to design and make a 3-mounted canopy that doesn't have any flex or jiggle in its mount. So they're able to design and get around that. But oftentimes with our other companies, we need 4 positions on our canopy mount. So nice job there. Obviously, they left accessibility to your port, which is also how you would apply firmware updates. The USB port is not obstructed down here at the bottom, unlike the HD0 Mob Lite. So that's safe and sound. Let me get a few of my batteries, and I'll show you how this does not really fit any other batteries. Okay, how about a nice square Tattoo 500? I don't know how well I can show this. Well, from here, you should be able to see that it's just too wide. Thickness, well, we really can't tell if it's too thick or not unless we were to be able to jam it in there. And this area of the frame is actually more stiff than this area, which is another interesting point. So this holds those 450s well, but if you don't have the Beta FPV 450s, not certain what other batteries will fit. Let's try one of these Xylos, something I've been flying quite a bit. If we can get that. Ooh, this one might fit, but it's PH20, so I wouldn't fly it on something with BT. So this Xylo 450, boy, it's not exactly. Oh, I am getting it. So if you can get this in a BT20, or you snip the end off and put the BT20, or switch them both to GNB27, whatever you want to do, this one does fit. Unfortunately, I don't want to chop that off because I like to fly these batteries on some of my poor analog. I fly often. Let's see. Let's go to this GNB over here. So again, it's just too wide. I can feel it as I try to get it in there. Oh, I'm getting it now, though. I did have to kind of crank that down. Can't. The bottom. Well, I guess in this case, I kind of fibbed to you. I don't want to keep forcing it because I don't want to break it either. Can you get it in there? Sure. I'll reverse what I said and say, yeah, you can get it in there. But should you be jamming it in there? I don't know. You make that choice. So that one kind of fits too. These are probably made by G&B as well. Gold line, AU line. Oh, this one feels a little bit bigger. Oh, I got it. I'm getting this one a little bit better. But man, is it tight. Yeah, I would not put those batteries in there. I'm not going to continue to jam batteries in there, guys and gals. I'm just not comfortable. I don't want to stretch this thing all out, and I don't have a lot of BT20 batteries. I'd have to start converting some PH20s. You know, got a lot of those. So when it comes to your battery choice, I kind of showed you what I could show you about the fit of our traditional 450s. The 500, I'm pretty certain it's not going to fit. Let me just kind of, I don't know. That looks the same to me, but it feels a lot thicker in the hand. Could be that outer shell, just harder that the Tattoo uses. But the Beta FPV one goes in there, and it doesn't slide around or anything. It goes in there even after I've stretched it out a little bit. It's fairly snug. I mean, it might shift in a crash, but I don't think it's going to come flying out. Of course, you would want to have the battery plugged in this way for anybody who thought I was actually going to plug it in. Something else that, because of this design and how the battery lead comes out, what I tended to do is I tended to twist this until I could make the battery lead a bit shorter and a bit taut. Then I would plug it in. Ah, I almost had it. Come on. Twist it again. Make it taut. Make it short. One more twist. So this keeps the battery lead. You can see kind of the distance from the battery lead up to the prop line right up in there. If you don't twist this, and I learned this from experience, from time to time it can get up there and then you get little nicks in your battery lead. And I may even have a few nicks in my battery lead because there was a couple of flights before I started twisting it where I thought I heard something and then I moved the wire down. I just kind of pressed through the hoop and moved the wire down. Started doing some flying, but it's not readily apparent to me here now that I'm looking at the wires if I actually got any damage to that insulation. So 450s, they fit nice and smooth as you would expect. These other batteries, they're going to require you to kind of jam them in and maybe stretch out the battery tray enough to where those won't stay in very well. When it comes to my experience with WalkSnail, I thought it was very, very pleasant. I thought the image quality looked good. There's a firmware mismatch issue that you're going to have every time you fly this, at least right now, because the goggles will have newer firmware on them than the Avatar Mini Vtx. I think this is at like 3.7 or something like that. And so you get this little box in the goggles that says firmware mismatch, and it says check, and it says skip. Just hit skip. At the time of this recording, there's no additional versions of the mini firmware, although Beta FPV did say that Caddx was planning to release one this week. As I record this video, it's kind of into the week, Wednesday. Hope to have this out by Friday, I hope. And I haven't seen anything posted, so I'm still using the only firmware available for the Mini Vtx. But I thought the image quality looked good. I think it's really cool that they added onboard storage. I just wish the method to getting it off was faster, because you have to use a battery. You have to have it plugged in. That's another thing I think I failed to mention. So not only do you have to plug in the connector into your USB port on your computer, but you've got to plug in a battery. And because we're working on an HD VTX, you need to have a small fan blowing on it. Now, I don't know if it will thermally protect itself or if it will just shut down during the process, but I kept a fan on it. It's kind of a habit of mine when it comes to whoops of having a little fan. I bought this at a gas station in Hawaii because, well, I was a much different version of myself then, and it was warm and humid there, so I needed a little fan blowing on me at nighttime to stay comfortable. So I probably paid way more than we need to pay for this because of where I bought it. But a cheap little fan like this, it does plug in and charge over USB. I've been using this for, well, it was before the pandemic when we went to Hawaii, so 3 years, I'm guessing. Works just fine. You don't need to spend much money. Some people make fans from PC fans and do their own little engineering work. Whatever you do, it's a good idea when you're dealing with whoops and having VTXs on to blow on them, whether they're the WalkSnail, HD0, or analog. It's just something that I do all the time. It'll help keep your VTX in good shape. But I think for what it is, a 40-gram 1S quad that records HD video recording, it's good fun. They did a nice job PID tuning it. It might need some VBAT PID changes in order to allow us to fly those lower quality or poorly conditioned batteries so we don't get those oscillations when we get below 3.5 volts. It's something to note when you're flying it, if you're wanting to fly it aggressively, freestyle sort of manner, that once the battery sag or the battery voltage gets down below 3.5 volts, probably should expect that. But maybe someone will come out with a tune that sorts that out. Maybe it'll be you. If you are interested in this, I think the only place you can get them as of the time of this recording is Beta FPV. You can also get the HD0 version, and it does come with FrSky, Express LRS, as well as TBS Crossfire as far as your radio control goes. Of course, you're going to need to have the WalkSnail goggles, or you're going to need the Fat Shark Dominator goggles. I have the Dominator goggles. So goggles are very specific to the VTX. We're starting to become siloed in this hobby, unfortunately. But I'll have a link down the video description. Probably only goes to Beta FPV. If you're aware of another site that is selling this particular product in this particular version, please let me know. I don't care what shop it is. I'll link it down below. But with your dollar on where you want to buy stuff, you don't have to go to where it's only available. You can wait for other shops to get it too. It's all good with me. But get yourself out there and fly and have fun, whether it's with an HD whoop or an analog whoop, because winter is coming. If you have any comments, questions, suggestions, or otherwise, please let me know in the comments section below. I appreciate your time. Running out of breath. Thanks for watching. Oh, chee-chee!